The year 2025 marks a somber anniversary in the world of digital security. It will be 15 years since the world first learned about Stuxnet. This was not just another computer virus, it was a landmark event. Stuxnet was the first publicly known cyber weapon designed to cause physical destruction. It crossed the line from the digital world into our physical reality. It made governments, engineers, the public pay attention to a new kind of threat. This threat targeted operational technology and industrial control systems. These systems manage power plants, water treatment facilities, factories. They are the backbone of modern society. Before Stuxnet, the idea of a malicious program-breaking machinery seemed like science fiction. The world had entered a new era. The story of Stuxnet begins in the shadows, long before the public knew its name. Between 2005 and 2009, a highly sophisticated piece of malware was being crafted. Its target was incredibly specific: the industrial control systems at Iran's uranium enrichment facility in Natanz. The goal was not to steal data or crash computers. The goal was to physically sabotage the centrifuges used to enrich uranium. This was a new frontier for malware. It was designed to be a silent saboteur. The malware needed to get inside a facility that was heavily guarded and air-gapped. This required a clever and patient approach to bypass physical and digital defenses. The attackers used a multi-stage infection process. The primary method for breaching the air gap was infected USB flash drives. An unsuspecting employee or contractor would carry the infected drive into the facility. Once plugged into a computer, the malware would quietly install itself. It exploited several zero-day vulnerabilities, which are flaws in software unknown to the vendor. That made it hard for traditional antivirus to detect. The code moved like a ghost through the network without setting off alarms. It looked for a very particular environment, a specific Siemens Step 7 configuration that controlled the centrifuges. Once Stuxnet found its target, its true mission began. It did not simply shut down the machines. That would have been too obvious. Instead, it subtly manipulated the programmable logic controllers. PLCs are the small, rugged computers that automate industrial processes. Stuxnet periodically changed centrifuge rotational speed. It would speed them up to dangerous levels and then slow them down. That stress caused the machinery to fail over time. The genius of the attack was deception. The malware hid its activity from plant operators. While centrifuges were spun out of control, Stuxnet played a trick on the control room staff. It recorded normal operating data, then replayed that safe data on operator screens. To engineers, everything looked perfectly normal. They saw no warnings, no error messages, and no signs of malfunction. They were blind to the chaos in the centrifuge hall. The world learned of Stuxnet in 2010 not because of the damage it caused, but by accident. A security firm in Belarus was called to investigate a computer in Iran that was stuck in a reboot loop. The researchers at Virus Blockada found a strange piece of code. It was large, complex, and used multiple unknown vulnerabilities. They realized they had found something new and significant. They shared their findings with the wider cybersecurity community. Soon, experts from Symantec, Kaspersky Lab, other cybersecurity firms began to dissect the malware. What they uncovered was a weapon of unprecedented sophistication. The code was a digital masterpiece of espionage and sabotage. The public reveal sent a shockwave across the globe. Cybersecurity journalist Kim Zetter, testifying before Congress years later, described Stuxnet as the first cyber attack to move beyond digital disruption. It inflicted physical damage on real-world systems. This was a profound shift. It was a proof of concept that a cyber operation could have kinetic, real-world consequences, blurring the line between cyberspace and the physical world. In the years immediately following Stuxnet's discovery, the cybersecurity industry scrambled to respond. The attack was a powerful proof of concept. Its techniques were studied intensely. Security researchers, governments, industrial operators began to understand the scale of the vulnerability. The incident spurred major advancements in industrial cybersecurity. A new market for OT and ICS security emerged. Companies built tools to monitor industrial networks for anomalous behavior. Systems were designed to detect subtle manipulations Stuxnet used to hide its tracks, going beyond traditional IT security. progress was uneven and slow. Many facilities ran on thin margins and avoided costly upgrades. Much critical infrastructure used legacy equipment. These older systems lacked cybersecurity by design. They often had no encryption, no authentication. Upgrading or replacing them was monumental, costly, and disruptive. So many plants stayed exposed. The industry never fully closed the gap, leaving windows for future attackers. Attackers learned too. Stuxnet was first, but not the last. Its code became a blueprint for state-sponsored malware. Russia, China, North Korea studied those methods. That study birthed new cyberweapons. Malware like Duke, Flame appeared, focused on espionage. Later, destructive tools like Black Energy, Indestroyer-targeted energy grids. This showed an evolution from espionage to disruption and sabotage. Cyber operations became covert warfare, achieving strategic goals without a shot, with plausible deniability. The period from 2020 onward saw the theoretical dangers highlighted by Stuxnet become a widespread reality. The proliferation of connected devices in industrial settings created a much larger attack surface. More PLCs were being embedded with web servers, connected to the internet, for remote monitoring and for maintenance. The COVID-19 pandemic accelerated this trend as more employees needed remote access to industrial systems. Security often lagged behind, leaving many critical systems exposed globally. Beginning in 2022, the world saw a dramatic escalation in attacks on critical infrastructure. The geopolitical landscape, especially the war in Ukraine, acted as a major catalyst. Hacktivist groups loosely affiliated with nation-states became increasingly active. They began targeting OT. They began targeting ICS, of their adversaries' allies. In the past, hacktivists mostly focused on defacing websites or on denial-of-service attacks. Now they sought to disrupt the physical world. Their goals shifted from simple protest to causing tangible disruption and fear, directly targeting the services people rely on every day. Between November 2023 and April 2024, the United States suffered at least 36 documented attacks, by groups linked to Iran and by groups linked to Russia. As we approach the 15th anniversary of Stuxnet, the threat it pioneered has evolved into new and more dangerous forms. Researchers are now uncovering a new generation of malware that builds on Stuxnet's core principles, but adapts them for the modern, interconnected world. In late 2023 and early 2024, Georgia Tech researchers discovered a new Stuxnet-style, web-based malware. This threat is a major evolution because it no longer needs physical access like a USB drive. Instead, it targets web servers embedded in modern PLCs, making remote attacks far easier. This web-based malware is particularly insidious. It's designed to be platform-neutral, adaptable across PLC types and manufacturers. That makes it far more versatile than Stuxnet's single-target design. Once inside a PLC's web interface, it can inject false data into the OT network. That's a direct echo of Stuxnet's deception. It can blind operators, showing normal screens while the physical process is secretly manipulated in the background. An attacker could manipulate output signals to actuators, causing valves to open or close at the wrong time. They could falsify sensor readings to hide overheating. They could disable critical safety systems. Consequences range from ruined factory batches, to widespread power outages, to industrial accidents causing environmental damage or loss of life. The malware is more resilient, making it harder to remove once infected. The potential for Stuxnet-style attacks to cause real-world harm is not a theoretical exercise. It is a frightening reality demonstrated since 2010. Attackers who gain control of PLCs can cause immediate, tangible damage. They can manipulate actuators, devices that physically move machine parts, valves, motors, switches. By sending malicious commands, an attacker could cause a pipeline to rupture, a generator to overheat, a chemical mixture to become unstable. These are not IT problems about lost data. These are safety and engineering problems that can cause physical destruction. One of the most dangerous capabilities is falsifying sensor readings. Industrial processes rely on constant sensor data measuring, temperature, pressure, flow rate, other critical variables. If attackers intercept and alter that data, operators can be blind to reality. An operator might see a safe pressure reading while actual vessel pressure climbs to critical levels. Disabling safety systems is another catastrophic possibility. In 2017, malware called Triton, also referred to as Trisis, targeted SIS at a petrochemical plant in Saudi Arabia. The malware aimed to disable safety controllers, which could have released toxic gas or caused an explosion. The attack stopped only because a coding flaw accidentally triggered a shutdown, alerting engineers. These real-world examples show the stakes are incredibly high. Many attacks so far have been disruptive, not destructive, but they prove adversaries have access and intent. The line between disruption and destruction is dangerously thin. The academic and policy communities have long recognized Stuxnet as a watershed moment. More than a decade after its discovery, it's still the most vivid example of a cyber operation causing kinetic damage. Researchers say Stuxnet changed how we see cyber strategy. It moved the conversation from network security to national security. Before Stuxnet, cyber power was mainly for intelligence gathering. After Stuxnet, it became a legitimate instrument of force, able to achieve strategic goals once reserved for bombs, missiles. This perception shift reshaped policy in the United States and other Western nations. Offensive cyber's imagined utility is now a cornerstone of military doctrine. Nations have invested heavily in cyber arsenals, sparking a new silent arms race. That has also forced renewed focus on defense. Policymakers and intelligence agencies now realize their critical infrastructure is vulnerable. Projecting cyber power abroad risks legitimizing it for others. Expert testimony before legislative bodies has helped build this awareness. Journalists and researchers have repeatedly warned Congress about escalating risks. They explain the techniques from Stuxnet are no longer limited to a few nations. The knowledge and tools have proliferated. They warn civilian infrastructure is the likeliest target. An attack on the power grid could cripple a nation's economy and its military response capabilities, without a single soldier crossing a border. Stuxnet was the wake-up call the world should have heeded more completely. It was a brilliant, terrifying piece of code. It proved the digital and physical worlds were irrevocably linked. Malware could escape the confines of a computer screen and break things in the real world. In the 15 years since its discovery, the threat has not diminished. It has metastasized. New web-based PLC malware is emerging. Attacks on critical infrastructure spiked after 2022. The lessons of Stuxnet are not history. They are today's urgent reality. The good news, we are not defenseless. Security isn't a mystery. Companies and governments must gain visibility. You cannot protect what you cannot see. Map all industrial assets. Identify every PLC. Understand how they are connected. Basic cyber hygiene is paramount. Change default passwords. Patch software vulnerabilities promptly. Strictly limit remote access. Segment OT networks from corporate IT and the internet. An attacker who breaches email should never reach factory controls. Individuals and small businesses follow the same principles. Work with equipment vendors to understand security features. Ask for security updates. Use strong, unique passwords for every device. Implement firewalls. Use VPNs for necessary remote access. Train staff to spot unusual behavior. Conduct cyber incident drills. These steps dramatically reduce your risk. The next 15 years will test how well we learned Stuxnet's lessons. Attackers will keep innovating. Stakes rise as everything becomes more connected and automated. Protecting critical infrastructure is a collective responsibility. Engineers, executives, policymakers, every citizen. Machines that run our lives are fragile. We must act urgently to protect them. The future of our physical world depends on the security of our digital one. Its anniversary is not just a historical marker. It's a stark reminder of a persistent and growing danger. The number of cyber attacks targeting critical infrastructure has exploded. Since 2022, there has been a staggering increase in such incidents. One report notes a 668% rise in attacks on critical infrastructure over the last 3 years alone. The story of Stuxnet is a cautionary tale, and its final chapter has not yet been written.